she wanted to, clarify things with you and just set things straight because, when, she just felt like, there was misunderstanding and it bothered her, because.
What a great mother. So great that you have her there helping you. I mean, it's just, she's up there in years too, and this is not something I'm sure that she ever anticipated having to do. I'm so sorry for your situation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't, it's hard for her without my dad especially.
Sure.
Because she was the kind of person that handled, all these kinds of things, like, she says, I never would have got myself in this situation if she was around. So, it's hard to think about that because, my dad would not have let George treat me the way he did all these years or talk to me the way he did or some of the things he's done.
Was your dad alive when you guys got married?
No, they never actually met.
Wow.
So, yeah, because my dad passed away, I think it'll be 14 years this year. And George and I have been together 12. So...
it sounds like your dad was an amazing man.
Oh, he was.
And he just happened to have a bad bike ride. It's so sad.
Yeah, I know. Especially because he was so used to, riding his bicycle. So I don't know if my mom told you, but he used to do Philly to Atlantic City every year.
Wow.
With a whole group of people. So, he was used to biking, like he was a professional cyclist.
No, I know people that do that and see them all the time out here, and you got to be in really good shape to do all that. And they think nothing of just going out and riding 100 miles. It's unreal. Just amazing.
He was 64 years old when he died, but the hospital, he was able to be an organ donor, which is, something that was nice.
Yeah.
But the hospital said he had the insides of a 40-year-old because that's how healthy he was. So, it's unfortunate because he would have probably lived a lot longer.
Sure. Sure. No, life is so precious, and in a second it can be gone. And I always think about that every single day. And we do all kinds of things, but anything can happen. You can be in a car accident. You can be in a bike accident. You can just going for a walk and have a rock come off a cliff and hit you. Anything can happen. Life is very, very precious.
Absolutely. And brain aneurysm, heart attack. I mean, you just never know. Yeah.
So your mom told me that George has like $7,000 of parking tickets. He hasn't paid.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Isn't that ridiculous?
Well, particularly because those things never go away. They eventually really do catch up with you, and they do put warrants out for your arrest.
Oh, I know. I mean, I'm pretty sure he has warrants out for his arrest right now, but after talking to police the other night, when he put his hands on my oldest daughter, they pretty much said that, people, even with warrants, they're just arresting them and then releasing them because of everything with COVID.
So basically, they got no room in the jails, and they can't do a thing. So everything's in this crazy limbo land.
I know. So it's just kind of crazy, but yeah, I mean, it's just, and they all started off as $15 to $25 tickets, and I think each one is like over $100 now.
Oh yeah.
And he has, I think just from Phoenixville, he has like $2,000 of parking tickets from parking in front of the house instead of getting a parking permit when they first changed, the parking out front.
Wow.
And all it is a $15 permit for a whole year.
I talked to him about that when I was parked out there, and he even said that. So it's not like he's not aware of it. Does he think that he's immune from the whole rules and regulations that the rest of the world plays by?
Yeah, pretty much. I think he was used to, his mom passed away a few years ago, but he was used to her just coming to his rescue and fixing everything for him. And it's like, I don't know if he's expecting her to come back from the dead to do it for him, but, he doesn't face things like that. Like, he just doesn't pay bills. And, when we first got married, he racked up, every bill in my name, because, I had good credit. Even as a single parent, I had managed to pay off, my debt, my school student loans, everything, by myself. And he just racked up everything in my name, and now I have bad credit. because of him, you know.
Now, George
So
George told me that you just spent money like crazy. Is that true?
No, that's what he always says, but it's not true.
So he's just he's trying to deflect everything and blame everything on you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've been to blame the past 12 years. So everything's my fault. Even he takes no responsibility for anything he does. He doesn't realize the thing that he does. And he's just completely oblivious to how he is and everything. I mean, it's, every time I tell somebody that I haven't seen in a while, I'm getting divorced, they're like, finally, it's about time. Like, I'm finding out that nobody likes him and that everybody's glad I'm getting divorced, which I kind of didn't realize or didn't know. So it's kind of a surprise. I mean, people that were very supportive of our whole marriage were like, oh, finally. Even my mom's like, I held my tongue 10 years. I never said anything bad about him, but it was not easy, seeing the way he treated you, the way he talked to you, the things he did, and for me, like, George was my first actual relationship. I was never really in a relationship before being with him.
What about with Sierra's father? You were in a relationship there?
I knew him for 2 years, and then I got pregnant with her within like a month of us dating. And he already had kids, and he said he didn't want any more kids. So that was pretty much it. I mean, we were only together about a month. I mean, I knew him for 2 years, but we didn't, like with him, we didn't add on bad terms or anything like that. It was just, it was what it was.
Is he involved in Sierra's life? Has he paid support? Has he helped you out?
No, he's never been involved. No,
I told him,
I was like,
never, ever has done anything?
Never, ever, 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 ever.
And how come you didn't go after him? George says you just never did it. Is that because there was no money there, or you didn't think there was, or what was?
Oh no, I went after him. I mean, it was just such. When I did get child support, see, he was really smart. He had other kids with when I filed for child support and everything with her, I found out that he actually had 5 kids and was already in the system for child support. Yeah, I know.
5 kids in the system. Jeez.
Yeah, which I had no idea. I knew he had 2 kids, but I didn't know there was like 5 of them altogether. So by the time it got to Sierra, I think he only owed $250 a month. Yeah. And he basically stopped working, put everything in his wife's name because he got married while I was pregnant. He went back to his ex-wife or his ex-girlfriend with whom he had 2 kids, and ended up marrying her while I was pregnant with Sierra. And he stopped working and put everything in her name, and the court can't touch things in her name. So he basically, paid child support off and on for a few years, and that was about it. And I mean, it just racked up, and every time we went to court, he never showed up. And, my case eventually got transferred from Westchester to Philadelphia, and just kind of got lost. It just went nowhere, and it became kind of pointless going after him because I wasn't getting anything, and
is that support order still standing and out there? Is that money that could be due you?
I mean, it's out there. I mean, I never officially canceled it or anything like that, but
that stuff never ever goes away. I mean, you're desperate for anything. Wherever that order is, I would call the court and say, hey, I haven't received anything, and let them be the horrendous bill collectors they are. I mean, Renee, I spent 30 days in prison for this stuff. They don't mess around with child support.
No, I know they don't, but the thing is, he already doesn't have, everything that they would do, he doesn't have a license, so they can't take that away. Okay. And they don't go out, because he's in Philadelphia. Yeah. Now, they don't go out and arrest you if you don't pay child support there. You basically have to be stopped for, something else, and then if the child support thing pops up, if you do a traffic violation or something like that, and then the child support thing pops up, then they'll do something about it. Yeah. But
maybe that'll happen. I'll hit the lottery and have to pay you. But I would just check to make sure that it's still out there, because I know of personally situations like that do happen. And then if he owes 20,000 to you, you can say, I'll be nice and forgive 15,000 because I'm a nice, caring human being and Sierra's all raised, and there's $5,000 that's in your pocket. But right now, we're going back now. How many years? 12 years? More? 13 years?
Yeah. 12 years. Yeah.
But where do things stand with you and George? Are you making progress with getting anything from him?
No. I actually had to block him the other day because he, after talking with my uncle, who does, counseling and family therapy and all that and things like that, he's like, he's just continuing the abuse by phone, by text message. And it's true. It's like, he'll send 2-3 nice text messages, and we'll have like a nice conversation or whatever. And then he'll go right back to just being like not nice and abusive and just, like when he told me he got the unemployment money, I was like, oh, he's like, let me know if you or Anna need anything. And I was like, yeah, some money would be nice.
Sure.
Like, that would be nice if you could give me some money. And, like, he's like, well, I took you to the grocery store, and it's like, everything's got strings attached to it. Everything is under his conditions, his way. It's not like he can just PayPal me some money or whatever, like it has to be under his terms, his way, and it's always tit for tat. Like I tried filing for unemployment and I'm already in the system, but he's the one that had actually initially filed it for me. And he keeps saying he gave me the password and the user ID and everything, but he hasn't. And like when I asked him for it, he was like, well, I'm not going to answer your question until you answer my question. And it's like everything just becomes like it becomes like such a mind game with him. And it's like I'm so tired of it. Like it's been so many years of it.
Right.
And I never get anywhere. It's like if I could play the mind game with him and I actually got somewhere, then sure, I'll play. But it's like we just go in circles, and I just never get anywhere. And it's so frustrating because even when I had picked up Anna and we had to call the police and everything because he wouldn't let us leave. He shows up the next day at my friend's house.
When was it? When was this?
It was the 30th, December 30th. And
he had cut. Where were you when he came to you? You were at your mom's house?
It was New Year's Eve. He came to my friend's house.
Okay.
Where I was staying with Anna.
Okay.
Saying that he brought her cell phone that she had left at the house. And you see, he uses the cell phone to track us, is what he does. And because I've been GPS tracked and monitored my whole entire marriage. Text messages, he monitors everything. And so I told we called the police because he wouldn't leave, and was basically trespassing at my friend's house.
Yeah. So literally,
call the police because he wouldn't let us leave. Like he doesn't even realize.
Hold on a sec. So literally, you were at your friend's house, and you had to call the police to get him to leave.
Yeah. Yep.
Did you warn him before you called the police?
Well, it's like we weren't answering the door because it was like his behavior was so erratic from the night before. When he, stood in front of my mom's car and pretended like she hit him with the car. Like, you go from that to, like, showing up the next day acting like nothing happened, everything's peachy, and then you don't leave, and you talk about breaking in the window, the police is going to be called at that point, And it was just like, and then he tells, the officer that he was bringing her cell phone, her cell phone. I told the officer, and with domestic violence, I don't want the cell phone. He's using it to track us, and so the officer just gave it back to him. But, like, he brings me a cell phone that, he knows can track us, but he doesn't bring me a suitcase of clothes that she desperately needs.
Do you think he's mentally okay?
I mean, at this point, no, I don't think so.
I think you're right.
He pretty much lives in his own reality and his own world,
right.
And it's not our reality. I mean, I'm pretty sure you and I have the same reality, but it's like he just doesn't live in the real world. Like he has his own fantasy of how things are and how things go, and You know, I mean, he thinks I'm like this awful, evil person who is always up to no good. And meanwhile, I'm like going above and beyond to make sure I'm not pissing him off, make sure I'm following the quote unquote rules he has, you know, trying to do everything to not piss him off, you know, and he just has like this distorted like image of or perspective of who I am, you know, and it's sad. It actually really breaks my heart because it's sad that after 12 years he doesn't know the kind of person that I am, you know, and realize that because if he sat down and thought about things logically for a second, he'd realize that like all the things he thinks aren't true, are basically impossible. You know, it's like he thinks I cheated on him all these times. You know, meanwhile, I'm at home with the kids. Like, he thinks I had the kids lying to him. Like, he thinks I'm, like, off speaker. Like, it's just so, like, insane. Is the only word, really, that I can use because it's absolute insanity. Like, I mean, he thinks I have Anna lying to him about, like, when we go shopping and stuff, like, we go to the store. And, like, he thinks we're, like, meeting up with somebody and I'm having Anna lie to him about what we're doing. I'm like, okay, what kind of person would I be involving my child in something like that? Like, that's awful. That's an awful thing, and I would never, ever do that. And it saddens me that he thinks that that's something that would happen. You know? Like, I'm not involving my mom in some conspiracy theory to cheat on him. You know, like, I mean, you talk to my mom, like, she's, you know, she felt bad thinking you didn't, you know, she misled you with the storage units. You think she's going to sit there and help me cheat or do anything, you know, of the sort? Of course not. You know, but it's like, he's just got such a, like, I don't even, it's just so distorted.
Well, how long, when was the last time you guys were in the master bedroom at Mill Street? I don't know how you've lived this long in this kind of situation. I mean, this is just, it just baffles my mind. It's a small house there at Mill Street. How are you able to tolerate being this abuse?
Well, it's like I kept hoping. I mean, my parents brought me up, you know, God hates divorce. You don't get divorced. You just push through, and you know, you just keep trying. And you know, that's what I tried to do. Like, I didn't get married to get divorced. I mean, I don't think many people do, but it was like, you know, divorce. Like, I don't even believe in divorce, and here I am getting divorced for good. You know, at some point down the road. You know, it's like I was raised to just keep going and, you know, keep trying. And, you know, I mean, we went to countless marriage counseling classes and therapists. And, you know, it's like, because what would happen, it was like, it would get bad enough for me to leave. But then, like, all of a sudden he would flip it around and just become, like, the nicest person ever. So then I would stay. And it was just up and down, you know, and it just kind of never, every time it got real bad, then it would get good again. You know, and it's like I would just hold on to the good, and you know, he had me in a position where, you know, I don't have a car, don't have a job, don't have money, have bad credit, you know, and he just had me so like believing mentally that I just couldn't survive without him, kind of thing.
Are you getting any therapy for yourself?
I am, yeah.
Good.
And that's when I started going to therapy, and I actually ended up at Horsham Clinic twice because I just couldn't take it anymore. Not that I wanted to kill myself, but I just couldn't take it anymore.
Where did you end up?
Horsham Clinic.
And that's just, it's a therapy center?
Yeah, it's a like a mental facility for mental health.
Okay.
And I did they have like an adult partial outpatient program.
Huh.
And so basically you go there from like 9 to 3 every day for 2 weeks usually. And it's just intense therapy and counseling and group therapy and classes learning how to deal with depression and anxiety and, you know, everyday life. And, you know, the first time I went there, like, it just, a light bulb went off because, you know, my depression has never been so bad as when I lived with George. You know, like, I've always had depression, but it was never to the point where, like, I couldn't get off the couch and I couldn't function, you know, and that's what it became because it was just the control and everything that he has, you know, like, I mean, every time I went out shopping or to the grocery store, I had to provide a receipt, you know, so he can't say that I'm out frivolously shopping when he demands a receipt every time. I was not allowed to take cash out of the ATM. I had to tell him where I was going, when I was coming back, and God forbid, like, I'm out and I remember that I need to go to another store, and don't tell him, like, all hell would break loose, you know? It was just very, like, if I said I was going out for 20 minutes later, he was calling and texting, "Are you home yet?" Like, well, I'm almost done. I'm still, I remembered I needed to get this, while I'm here. Or, get that. He's like, just come home. I mean, I lost almost all my friends. Even when I'd be out with my mom, he would text me nonstop. "When are you coming home? Why is it taking so long? Aren't you done yet?" Like, to the point where, like, I couldn't even enjoy myself, so I just basically stopped going out with people because it just became such a burden. And, like, if I go out with somebody, like, I don't want them sitting on their phone the whole time while I'm trying to have a conversation with them or trying to spend time with them, but that's what it would become for me. And it's like, and then it would always turn into an argument. Everything was always an argument. And there was no winning. There was no solutions to anything. It was always pretty much his way or the highway. And
well, it sounds like this has been going on for a long time. Have you shared all this with your mom and your brothers and your family over the years?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't go into, like, entire detail, with them or not. I mean, my brothers, they are aware of, what goes on because of things that they've seen. It's not even like, because George blamed me for my brothers not liking him because I talk to them all the time, and I'm like, that's not even true. Like,
jeez,
my brothers don't like you because of the fact that you don't support me.
Sure.
Financially, or even emotionally, or you play like the good guy with everybody else, and you act a certain way with certain people. You act a certain way with certain people, but then it's like, we had all the grand things, like we had the nice car, the big TV. But meanwhile, like, I need underwear or shoes or, like, basic necessities that I didn't have.
So he was putting on this false front of, we got a beautiful car and living in a nice house and big screen TV. So he was playing that whole game?
Oh, yeah. Like, it was all about appearances and about, that. But meanwhile, it's like none of the bills are paid. The Pico's getting shut off.
How's he paying the electric bill? I mean, the electric that place is a lot.
It is. I'm sure he probably owes like $5,000 on it.
$5,000.
I'm not even kidding. It was like $3,000 or $2,000 to $3,000 a while ago. But with COVID, Pico wasn't shutting off the power.
Interesting. So he's just running up the bill. He's playing the whole COVID card game.
Oh, yeah, all the way with everything he possibly can. And it's like every time he would get fired, I'm the one that supported us. I'm the one that...
Well, how did you support him? You're not making any money.
Well, I would babysit. I would, like, do, like, random jobs. Like, I just, I've asked churches for help, to pay bills, things like that.
Who would you babysit for?
My next door neighbor had a friend, Brooke.
Okay.
And I babysat her. She had a newborn, and she had to go back to work. So I actually babysat him for like over a year.
Okay.
At the house.
Sure.
She would drop him off in the morning, and I was making like $100 a week.
Right.
But you know what? That $100, supported us. And then every time the rent wasn't paid and it started racking up, I eventually had to call my mom, and my mom would bail us out. And then we pay her back. But it was always like me that bailed us out.
Did your mom ever end up getting paid back?
No. Well, I paid her back for some of the money we owed her.
Uh-huh.
I had a car accident in 2012 that gave me a large sum of money.
How did you guys control your finances? I'm confused. I mean, you were married, but it sounds like George was in control of everything other than whatever you were able to sometimes squirrel away, do some little things.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly how it was. I mean, even last year, not in 2018, he left me out of his bank account for 3 months. And the only time I could have money was if I asked. Like, he treated me more like a child than, a partner. Like, I'd be like, "Daddy, can I have some money?"
Yeah.
I mean, it's really what it was.
Well, how did you guys deal with the bills? Did you say, all right, we got $1,000 electric bill, we got $1,600 in rent, we got a car payment? I mean, did you think these were just going to disappear?
I mean, pretty much. You know, I mean, I'm the one when the rent got paid. You know, I was always the one. It was always for me. It was always me that made sure the rent got paid when I could or whatever when he was working. You know, it was always me that wrote the check and sent the check, and was in contact with your dad over everything. I mean, George and him, like George would never even get on the phone and talk to him. Like every time your dad would call.
Yeah, no, I always noticed how you guys did that. I could never quite get it. So he kind of had, all right, I'm gonna have Renee be the point person and play the game.
Yeah, it's like, and then he would have me tell people if I tell you I'm gonna give you $100 when I get paid, I'm gonna give you $100 when I get paid.
Right.
Because that's my word. And to me, I was raised my word means something. To him, it means nothing. And it would get to the point where he'd be like, oh, well, just tell this person that new thing. And I'd be like, well, are we going to do that? Because I don't want to tell him if that's not going to happen. Because then I'm putting myself on the line, that I was the asshole. Pardon my language, but it's I don't like to tell people something that's not going to happen.
Right.
And if I say something, I make it happen. I mean, I can't tell you how many times he's promised Dana this, that, and the other thing. And then when the time came, oh, I'm too tired. Oh, I don't feel like it. Oh, I don't want, another day. So, anytime he promised something, I'm the one that had to come through with it. I'm the one that would have to step up and, do whatever he promised her he was going to do with her. I mean, even at one point some lady at work, he likes to bake, and he made a cake for his office when he was working a few years ago. And a lady at the office was paid him money to make her a cake.
Jeez.
Okay, guess who had to make the cake?
You.
It was me. It's just things like that. He found a way to ruin every birthday party, every holiday, everything, every single year. I mean, every year. I mean, he ruined both my daughter's birthdays every time it was their birthday. He ruined my birthday every time. He ruined everything. He even ruined his own birthday a few years ago. I mean, who? And then blamed it on me, of course. But it was all on him. And then I tried to do all these things for him, and he basically stayed upstairs the whole entire day and huffed and puffed. And it was okay, guess we're not going out to dinner, guess we're not doing this, guess we're not having cake, guess we're,
Mm-hmm.
It was just awful. And it's I'm embarrassed when I think about it because I can't believe I dealt with all that for so long, and it's taken me this long to leave, but at the same time, he just had me so, I guess kind of brainwashed, into thinking that I couldn't do it on my own and I wasn't good enough, and every decision I made is wrong decision, and, I'm basically just stupid because every time I would say something, he'd correct me, I mean, even to the point of I would say oh, I went to the store on this day. He'd be no, you didn't. And I'm yes, I did. He'd be no, you didn't. How do you know I didn't go to, I was there. I went to the store. I know I went to the store. It was just crazy. And then he was just no, you didn't. And it was there was just no convincing him ever of anything. Didn't matter how wrong he was, with proof and everything, he still, nope. He believed what he believed. And, he would sit there and question me about all kinds of things. And I'm just I would literally be in the middle of an argument with him, and I'm sitting there I cannot believe I'm having this conversation. This is so ridiculous. Who in the world has a conversation like the one I'm having? This is just not normal.
Right.
And they're just, because I actually left him a year ago.
Where did you go a year ago?
I stayed with my mom for 2 weeks.
How did that go?
Well, he came begging and pleading, and I'm going to change, and this and that, and I'm so sorry. I just never should have treated you that way. And, you know, just basically, you know, apologizing like crazy. And, you know, he did change for a few months and then it reverted right back to how he normally is. You know, his, what I call his default, you know. And the crazy thing is, like, you know, I'm in this domestic violence abuse situation, but it turns out that his dad, after his mom passed away, he remarried a few years like later.
Yeah.
And they're getting divorced too because she's claiming domestic violence also.
On this new husband?
On George's dad.
George's dad's still around.
Yeah, he's still around.
So George lost his mom, his dad remarried, and now this woman is claiming violence on George's dad?
Yep. And I'm like, here I am thinking like father, like son, you know? I mean,
so what's the status of that? Has it happened? Where do they live?
Well, they were living. They built a brand new house in Harleysville. And apparently she's still at the house. Like, this just happened, I think, recently. She's still at the house in Harleysville, and he moved back in with George's brother and sister-in-law in Salisburyville.
How did you find all this out? George told you?
Yeah, George told me.
So George feels comfortable telling you these things.
Yeah.
Geez.
So it's just, you know, it's like he just like it's really sad because like he doesn't realize what he does. Like he just doesn't realize it. Like even to like act the way he did on the 30th and then show up at my friend's house on the 31st, acting like nothing's wrong. You know, and wondering why his daughter won't speak to him. It's not anything I'm doing. Like, believe me, I've like pushed her to the point where like she's screaming at me to stop bringing it up. You know, I'm like, well, I know you love your dad, and down the road, you know, you might want to talk to him. He's like, she's like, no, I won't. I hate him. I never want to see him again. I never want to talk to him again. And I'm like, well, you know, I understand those are your feelings right now.
Right.
You know, I was like, but, you know, things change and, you know, down the road. No, I'm never going to change my mind. I'm never this. I'm not, like, she's like, if you put me on the phone with him, she's like, I'll duck. And I'll just keep ducking. And then I'll hide under the bed. And, like, she's like, you will not put me. She's like, I will not talk to him. And I'm like, well, you know, okay, well, maybe, you know, I'm trying to, like encourage her to, like, talk to him. Like, she's like, nope. Like, and, you know, when I ask her why, you know, she's like, because of his drug use. I mean, she's 8 years old. She shouldn't know that her father does drugs. Like,
how does she know her dad's doing drugs?
Because he's so not obvious about it. Like, he's so, like, he leaves it out. You know, he leaves, like, the paraphernalia out.
Like, what kind of paraphernalia does he have?
It's like, okay, you know, like, it's like a glass pipe thing with a bowl on the end.
Okay.
Kind of like weed.
Okay, so is he doing weed, or what is he doing?
But it's not for, like, it's specifically for, I think it's called, like, an oil burner. Like, if you look it up online, I think, like, it's an oil burner or something like that.
Okay.
Is what it's called, or what they sell it as. But, you know, he puts it in there, and then he smokes it from there, and he'll leave that out all the time. So
he's not even, like, embarrassed that he's doing this?
No. Like, when my mom and I went there a few weeks ago, actually the day that I took him from the house, I had to call the police because he wouldn't let us leave. That day, he had the paraphernalia right on the kitchen table. And I'm like, seriously? I'm like, can you at least put it away? Like, you're just leaving it out. Like, it's okay. And I took pictures of it. And I have pictures, like, it's on the kitchen table.
Did the police ever see it?
Well, like I said, they're not doing anything about anything right now.
Nothing. They're not doing anything for possession charges or drugs or anything?
It's really, I mean, I even told them that a drug dealer was living at the house, you know, and they're like, oh, okay. Like, I was like, okay, cool. Okay, if you don't care, then I guess I can't care either. Like,
well, do you really think Mike's a drug dealer? I mean, he seems like a nice guy, but who the heck knows?
He's a very nice guy, but he just got out of federal prison.
Yeah.
He was on house arrest in Harrisburg. I mean, I told the police, I was like, you can look him up. Like, he has a full-blown record of possession and distribution and everything. And I mean, most of George's friends do.
Really? Most of George's friends have records like that?
Oh, yeah. You know.
Did you know that when you married him?
I didn't, like, I knew that when I married him, I knew that he kind of used to. Like, he used to have, because he used to be, he'll deny this, but he used to be, like, a pretty involved drug dealer himself, like, when he was, like, way younger, like, in his early 20s.
So how did he get into the whole computer field?
He's always been, like, technical. Like, he's always been, like, computer, but his mom was, like, very involved in his life, and, you know, when she found out that he did drugs, you know, she kind of made sure that she pushed him in the right direction, you know, and she made sure, because she used to be a nun. George's mom was a nun for like 10 years.
Was a nun? Nun?
A nun. A nun in the Catholic Church for 10 years.
And did she raise him as a nun?
No, she decided, you know, after 10 years of being a nun, she decided that she actually really did want to have kids, so she thought she, you know, left the covenant or whatever. I'm not Catholic, so I don't know what it's all called, but I think, you know, the convent or whatever. She left and then met George's dad, and then they got married and had George, and then 2 other kids.
Is George close with his brothers and sisters?
He was very close to his whole family when I first met him, and then, which was, like, to me that was attractive. Like, I thought that was really cool, because, you know, growing up in Europe, like, we were never around any of our family, you know, so, like, we never got, like, have cousins that we were close to, or, like, anything like that. So, like, I thought it was really cool that, like, his family, like, all hung out together all the time. They did all kinds of things together. Like, I thought that was really neat. And then I quickly found out that, you know, that might have been how it had been in the past years, but it wasn't like that anymore.
Right.
You know, because most of his cousins are involved in drugs one way or another. At least the ones he talks to. 2 of his cousins have OD'd. We've gone to 2 funerals over the past 2 years.
They OD'd?
Yeah, they overdosed and died from heroin.
Do you think he's doing heroin?
No, he's never done that. He's just doing crystal meth. Like, I know he's just doing crystal meth.
Just crystal meth?
Yeah, well, I know. I'm like,
just crystal meth, no big deal, you know? So is this like Breaking Bad? Have you ever watched Breaking Bad?
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, I know. Well, I kind of watched it. I never really got into it, but... So
is that basically what George is? He's like a functioning meth head?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, functioning to a certain degree, because he eventually gets to the point where, like, he just stops going to work. And I mean, how hard is it to go to work when you work from home? All you have to do is turn the computer on. Like, to me, I don't understand that.
Well, my guess is the stuff that he's doing is, it's time sensitive. So if you're not doing what the employer wants you done, they eventually get rid of you. Is that basically what's happening?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, he's lost every single job he's ever had.
So how does he get a new job? He just doesn't give him the reference, and they say,
well, because he's very talented. Like, he's really talented.
Yeah. So he just makes up an excuse, and they don't want to get sued, so they don't make any comment. So he gets the new job.
And he's a very, very good manipulator. Like, he's very, very good at manipulating people. I mean, he manipulated me for years.
Right.
You know, he's very good at the way he phrases things, and I mean, he's very, very intelligent. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's very smart, and he has a way of phrasing things that just like blows your, like, you're like, huh? Like, and he would just be very creative and phrase things a very specific way with different things, and he would just get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like, and it's killing me, because it's like I feel like he's still getting away with it, because, you know, unfortunately, I think your dad is, you know, I mean, I respect him, and I appreciate more than he could possibly imagine everything he's done for us. I mean, he did not have to be as nice as he was. You know, we certainly did not do anything to deserve it, and, you know, he went above and beyond, you know, to help us anytime he could, and was patient, and I, like, you should, if you knew how bad I feel about the whole situation with your dad, like, it's not even funny. Like, I feel so bad, because, like, you know, he probably even has like the wrong, you know, image of me or perspective of like thinks of me as like this other person. But like, any apartment I've ever left, spotless. I mean, I lived at Pickering Run. I moved out one weekend. The next weekend they had the place rented already because like that's how I was raised. Like I want my deposit back and I want to, you know, leave the place. Like I was taught to leave things better than when you find them. Right. You know, and that's just how I was raised, and that's how I always did it. And whereas him is like he just moved out and that's it, and you know, doesn't worry about the consequences of anything, and because he doesn't take responsibility for anything. So when you don't take responsibility, who cares about consequences?
Well, your mom told me when he grew up, his mother moved him around and did everything. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, definitely.
So, like, what does that mean? Why were they moving around?
Well, not moving around, but like she would anytime he you know got himself in trouble at school or with the law, she always bailed him out. Any debt he incurred, she would pay. Anytime he would stop making car payments and his car would get repossessed, she would pay. Right. She just bailed him out all the time, so he never kind of learned, you know, to take responsibility for his actions or to pay, you know, the price of what he does, or they, you know, have to deal with consequences. And right. You know, it kind of became that way when we got married. Like when she passed away, you know, it all turned to me, and like I said, I'm the one that always had to bail us out. I'm the one that had to figure things out. I'm the one that had to figure out how to pay this, that, and the other thing. Right. You know, or remind him like we got to pay this, we got to do this, we got. You know, I was raised. You take your paycheck, you pay your bills, and then whatever's left is left. You know, and you just make do. Whereas he's like, okay, well maybe I'll pay this bill this month, and you know, let that one slide, and. Or I just won't pay any of them, and I'll just go spend the money on what I want. And, like, it's just very different, you know, ways of living, I guess, is the way to put it. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I have a very strong work ethic, and, you know, my daughter, Sierra, she's the same way. She has a very strong work ethic. You know, she works, like, 80 hours a week. I mean, it's, like, I tell her she works too much, but, you know, that's just how she is. Like she cleans and she does things, and it's like, you know, I would clean the whole house and he would destroy it within seconds. You know, and it was just like it got to the point where like I am kind of OCD when it comes to, like I like things where they go, right, and that's where they go. You know, but I had to let go of that because I was driving myself insane because like. He's like so the opposite, right? You know that it just got to the point where like I couldn't take it. Like I just had to stop. You know, I had to like try to stop. I had to learn how to stop caring and just let things slide and let things go, and you know, just try not to worry about it and kind of keep my fingers crossed and hope that things will get better. You know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've hit rock bottom, right? And I told my mom like. Mom, I've hit rock bottom like 10 times already. Like, when is he going to hit his rock bottom? You know? When is he going to, like, get smacked in the face with reality and have to actually deal with things? You know? It's like, but it just hasn't happened yet. And, you know, I just keep waiting for it to happen, but it just, you know.
Do you think there's any way to get him out of Mill Street?
What?
Do you think there's any way to get him out of Mill Street?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. Okay. I mean, I know he did some stuff at the house. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but when we were packing and moving everything, he was just kind of sitting there, either not doing anything. Or
yeah, I absolutely noticed that. I mean, other than the day he helped you pack, but the next day he didn't do a darn thing, and the next day when I went,
yeah, like honestly, like he didn't even do anything until you showed up at night, and like I was shocked that he was helping us put stuff in the truck. Like it blew my mind. Yeah. To tell you the truth, like even my mom was like, "Oh my gosh, she's helping." I'm like, "I know, this is so weird." You know, every time we've moved from anywhere, he's never helped. It's always been me and my mom and my aunt and my uncle and my friends who have moved us every single time we've moved. It's, never been him or him, him doing anything. I mean, he wouldn't even pack up, he won't even pack up his own computer stuff. Like, who doesn't pack up their own computer stuff? It's just, I just don't know. I just don't understand,
So how are you affording an attorney for all this?
My mom is paying for it right now.
What does your attorney say? I mean, this is just a mess of a situation.
I know it is. I haven't really right now. There's not really a whole lot for her to do because she's handling the support, the spousal support, and child support, and then she's handling the divorce and the custody.
Have you actually filed for divorce yet, or you're just going for support and custody and worrying about the divorce later?
Right now I'm just worried about custody. Custody is my number one priority.
Right.
Just because, I don't feel that she's safe with him.
Understand.
At this point. I believe that he can be a very good father. I believe that, it's like I believe there's a good person in him. I don't know at this point if there still is or not, but for many years, I know how he is when he's not doing drugs, and he's a completely different person, and that's kind of the person that I held on to all these years, just kind of hoping that, that person would come back, because, he is not the person I married. I'm sure he could probably say the same thing about me, but, he is absolutely, when we first got together, he was so kind and caring and generous, and took care of Sierra and I, and paid for everything, and, would babysit Sierra when I had to go to work because I couldn't take off because my boss was not very nice and she wouldn't let me take off. He would stay home with her when she was sick. He was just such a wonderful person, which is, why I fell in love with him and why I married him. But then it was as soon as we got married, it's it kind of it switched, and he, as soon as we got married, within I think a month of it, he lost his job and didn't work for 6 months. And
so it's typical that he'll go 6 months without a job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is probably the longest he's kind of gone because it's been almost a year now.
It almost seems like he's okay with it.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing is as long as unemployment money's coming in, it's he just I don't know. It's he doesn't have a care in the world. He just doesn't worry about anything. Meanwhile, I'm the worrywart, or I'm how are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to pay the electric? How are we going to pay this? How are we going to pay that? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? I'm constantly it weighs on me, because I said, I'm the type of person my bill comes and I pay the bill. There's no late fee, there's no past due date. He just sits back and expects all this stuff to happen. He had a storage unit that my mom actually paid on so that I could get my stuff out of it when I left him a year ago, because he hadn't paid on it forever. And so my mom paid up just so I could get my stuff out of the storage unit. And
so he could so you couldn't get stuff out of the storage unit until the bill was paid?
Yeah, because if you don't pay it, if you don't pay within the first week or so.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. Fascinating.
Yeah, and you have 3 months to pay what you owe, or they sell your stuff.
Wow.
And when my mom paid up on the storage unit so I could get my stuff out, he had some of his stuff left in the storage unit, and my mom even said to him do you just want to move this over to the new storage unit, because it's paid for the next month, for him until he can figure something out,
Uh-huh.
So he's no, it's all right. Well, he lost the storage unit. His stuff got sold because he didn't pay on it, and I think he still owes him $500.
Yeah.
On top of his stuff being sold, but it's he just keeps racking up. He still has student loan debt that he's never paid on. In the 12 years we've been together, he's not paid once on his student loans. Not once.
And they don't come after you for payments?
Well, the thing is, he only works 6 months most of the time, so it's I think he's had maybe 2 jobs where he works maybe a year and a half to 2 years at the most. But every other job, you know, I mean, if you look at his Facebook page, I mean, he's got a list of like 10 different jobs, like boom, 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 you know, over the past 10 years. And I mean, my brother, he's like, it's ridiculous. He's like, I've worked at the same job for the past 10 years.
What's his Facebook page?
I think it's either George Thompson or George Allen, Alan Thompson.
Alan
Thompson. It either just has the George Thompson or it's George Allen Thompson. There's a picture of him and Anna together.
Yeah, interesting. Wonder if he'll friend me.
You know, when the job that I worked, I was there 4.5 years, 5 years, 3 years. You know, like I stuck the job out. You know, and because no job is fun. Like those jobs are not fun. Like you don't go to work for fun. You know, you go to work because you have to, and you don't have a choice, and you need money, and you need to pay bills, and you need food, and you need to pay over your head. You know,
right?
And you know, my one landlord, I was on Church Street, on right next to where they used to have packs, the pantry.
Yeah.
I lived right there for I think 7.5 years. My landlords cried when I left because they were sad to see me go.
So you were a single parent when you were living there?
Yeah. Yeah, I was a single parent for 8 years with my daughter, with my oldest. So, and like they cried when they left. They didn't want me to move out. And then I moved into Pickering Run and was there for 2 years. And then, like I said, when I moved out of there, they rented the place the next weekend because I left it so clean.
So how did you guys have the big Thanksgiving with your mom? How'd you guys pull that off with all this going on?
Well, it was. I mean, at that point, we'd already decided that I had already told him we were, getting divorced and everything. But for Anna, I wanted to keep, things kind of. Like my hope, honestly, Chris, was that George and I would live like in the same apartment complex, and that Anna would be able to bounce back and forth whenever she felt like it to either house, and him and I would just be able to like co-parent like adults, and that we'd all live happily ever after, separate. I mean, I have my friend or my daughter Sierra has a friend Sophie whose parents do that. I mean, they live on the same street, a few blocks away from each other. And her and her brother just bounce back and forth whenever they feel like it from house to house, and the parents get along great. And they had an amicable divorce, and they're adults about the whole situation. And that was my hope, But it's obvious at this point that that's not going to happen. And to me that's kind of sad because like I said, I believe children need both parents. When the situation is a good situation, of course. When it becomes like a toxic situation, of course, then it's a little bit different. I mean, my daughter Sierra, like, I raised her completely on my own. And, she graduated high school. She has a full-time job. She's trying to be a manager at Burger King.
That's great.
She has her own car. She has a place to live. Like, she is fully set up, and I did that on my own. So it's like, when it's a good situation and when the parent is in good mental health and all that, I think it's great. I would love for Anna to be able to go over to her dad's house and have fun with him and have a daddy daughter time because I was a daddy's girl. So I know, to me, I know how important it was to have my dad involved and around and everything. And I wish that for Sierra, wish that for Anna, but at the same time, when he can't feed her dinner or make sure she has food other than junk.
Is he able to cook and do stuff like that, or is he just totally helpless? I mean, what's in that big kitchen where he can't even move?
The thing is, like, he's not helpless at all. He just is lazy. Is basically what it. I mean, he's just downright lazy. Like even the day that I picked her up and he wouldn't let us leave, like she had toaster strudel twice, 3 times. She had toaster strudel 3 times, didn't have any, like, appropriate meal, didn't have dinner when we picked her up at night. Like, you know, she threw up the one day, and he tries to give her chocolate milk after she threw up. Like, are you trying to make her throw up again? You know, like, it's just, I don't know.
So sad. I'm so sorry. So sorry.
You know, and it's really sad. Like, to me, it's just so sad.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I believe there's a good person in him. I believe that he could do amazing things if he actually tried. You know, even if he put a little less effort into anything. You know, he used to spend so much time trying to prove that I was cheating on him. But obviously I wasn't. But I'm like, he can keep trying to find proof because there isn't any out there. So good luck with that.
So what's the deal with your mom? Said he's got security cameras everywhere and is monitoring your phones and location and everything.
Oh yeah, he has a security camera front and back door. He has recording devices throughout the house. Like, he's completely paranoid.
So where do all those video camera feeds go to?
His phone.
So he's got one of those security phones that he can look at it and shows the camera from every single door.
Yep.
Wow. How long's he had? How long's he had that?
The security camera front and back door went up after I moved out. When I lived there, we didn't have that kind of security. He would have audio and video in the house, that he had access to when he would be at work, because he was trying to prove I was cheating. So he would be able to look at the cameras and see, like, what I was doing or who I was talking to, or.
So, like, he had cameras he had cameras in the kitchen and the bedroom?
He had cameras in the living room, mostly in the living room, because that's where I spent most of my time. But he has hours and hours and hours and hours of audio recordings of me just at the house, hanging out, cleaning, with a friend. I mean, I'm sure it's real fascinating.
I was going to say, that's pretty darn boring surveillance tape.
Yeah, I mean, like, have fun, like, and I used to tell him, like, if you spend half of the time you spend trying to prove that I'm cheating on actually trying to make our marriage work, I was like, we would have a fantastic marriage. Like, our marriage would be amazing, you know? But it's like he was so stuck on his ideas and what he believed, and, you know, like, he believes he has this 30-second recording of me having sex with somebody.
Well, even if he did, what does that mean? You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Like, it's just so ridiculous. Because I'm like, it's not even true. Like,
and I just don't know. I'm trying to get into his mind and see what he's thinking, because even if you were having a million affairs and having guys come in, that doesn't mean anything. Certainly at this point. So it's just, what does he think that he's got on you?
And he, like, I can't tell you how many times he'd be like, just tell me the truth. I already forgave you. I don't care if you cheated on me or whatever. Like, just tell me the truth. I mean, like, but I didn't. And I'm not going to sit there and say that I did just to shut you up. Like, I didn't do it.
Right.
You know? Like, and he just would not believe me. You know? 2 years ago, I actually had a miscarriage, and he believed that the baby that I miscarried wasn't his. You know? And of course it was. But, like, he wanted a DNA test done. He wanted, everything. And it was like, I'm sitting there asking the doctor, like, is it possible to have a DNA test done on a miscarriage? And the doctor's like, no. I'm like, well, I kind of knew that, but, just had to ask to, satisfy my husband. But it's like, that was so hurtful. Like, that broke my heart. Like, not only losing the baby, but the fact that he didn't think it was his. And then having to go through all of that by myself. Without my husband's support.
So he wasn't at the hospital with you? He wasn't helping you out at all?
Well, no, because he didn't think it was his.
But he's still married to you. He's still in the same house with you.
I know.
Amazing.
So, and it's like, he just, like I said, it's the drugs that do that, because it's sort of, I mean, I can't tell you the number of conversations he tells me that we've had that I know we have not had.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I know we did not have those conversations because I was not high at the time. So I'm aware of what I did and what I didn't do. And, at one point I was on Percocets for pain because of my feet got so bad.
Sure.
My plantar fasciitis, and he got in his head that I took like 20-something Percocets in 24 hours, made me go to the hospital and to be checked because he thought I was going to overdose on Percocets. And of course, everything came back negative because I knew I hadn't, because I was so careful to make sure that I was taking them as prescribed, and I forget how many hours apart you're supposed to take each dosage, but I was very careful to take them, the right amount of time in between, because one time I think I did it too soon. Like I took more too soon, and I actually threw up from it because it was too much medicine. And so like if you have to tell me I've taken 20-some Percocets in 24 hours and I'm not puking, and feeling completely normal, so I mean, he made me go to the hospital and everything, and like I said, everything came back negative. Like I wasn't overdosing, and my therapist at the time believed that he was basically what's called gaslighting.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. Yep.
And, she believes that he's a narcissist.
Yep.
And that he was basically gaslighting me, making me try to feel like I was going. And I can't tell you the number of times I felt like I was losing my mind.
Yeah.
Like, and I'd have to check in with different people. Like, am I going crazy? Like, And he would blame me for like his Adderall disappearing, and I'm like, I haven't touched it, And like one time he came home and said that there was like 4 sticks in a bottle that he brought home from work. Okay, I purposefully did not touch the bottle, Chris. Okay, made my daughter get it from the car. She comes back in, she's like, Mom, there's only 2 in the bottle. And then, of course, she throws up and down. Then you took the other 4 and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, there was 2 in the bottle. Like, I can't change reality. Like, I can't make things appear that weren't there before. Like, I can't just magically make 4 more pills appear. And it's just like, things like that. Like, he just, he loses money all the time. And then says that I took it from his wallet. Like, I never touched it. I don't watch him. Like, I'm not going to really think with all the things I deal with, I'm going to purposely piss you off and take your money. Like, are you crazy?
Right.
Like, I'm going around walking on eggshells trying not to piss you off. Doing everything I can not to make you mad. Trust me, the last thing I'm going to do is do something on purpose to piss you off.
So,
because what would happen is if I kind of fought back when he would get mad and didn't react how he was trying to get me to react, he would then take it out on my daughter, Sierra. Because he knew that if I didn't react to him, that I definitely would react when he went after her. Which, of course, I did, because she's my daughter, and I'm going to protect her no matter what. But it's like, it was just like, yes, George, sure, George, anything you say, George, if that's what you think, George, sure, if that's what you believe, yep, okay, sure. Like, it was just like, I got to the point where like, I just didn't even argue back. Like, he would just sit there and scream at me, and I'd be like, can you please stop screaming at me? I can't, I would like to have this conversation with you when you're not screaming at me, when you're not yelling at me, and of course, like, that just made him more mad, and just like it was awful, Chris. It was just really awful, So.
Well, let me know how I can help you. What's your next deadline? And as I say, nothing happens until there's a deadline, and nothing happens until the deadline. What's your next date in court or whatever you need to do with him?
My next thing is February 4th. We have another child support hearing.
And what happened at the last one?
At the last one, he basically railroaded me, told the enforcement or the officer or whatever that I was getting unemployment money, and I had told her that I wasn't because I didn't know that I was, or it wasn't because, like I said, he's the one that set it all up. And
so is he trying to say that you did something wrong?
He's just trying, like, he just basically got it to the point where, like, the officer was like, well, I can't make a decision today because I don't have enough.
Right. So he just made everything confiscated, and the officer just punched it and said, "We'll see you the 4th." So will that be an in-person meeting, or will that be?
That will be virtual, and my lawyer will be present this time.
You didn't have a lawyer last time. No,
I tried to do a continuance because my lawyer wasn't available, and of course, every everything I say, he says the opposite. So I say continuing, he says no.
Right.
And then, you know, it couldn't be continued. So then I had to go through, and I'm like, I don't have a W-2 because it was mailed to the house. It was mailed to the house for the 2 months that I worked in January and February of last year, and made me $1,000. You know, like it's just like, you know. And she's like, well, ma'am, it sounds like he doesn't have enough money to support himself. So, you know, I don't know how you can expect him to support you or your daughter right now. And blah, 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 blah. I mean, I just was like, whatever.
Well, what you need to go down, and hopefully a lawyer do that, is that he's got an earning capacity of $100,000. So
exactly.
That's where it should be. And I've been through all these different things, and that's what ended me in jail, because I was not making money. I had no money. But the reality is that it's pretty easy to document that when George works, he can make $100,000. And even if they don't accept $100,000, they might accept that he makes $30,000. Bottom line, they want at least $500 a month out of him, if not $2,000.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, he has, I mean, ever since I've been with him, I think when I first got with him, he might have made $80,000 that first job, but after that, it's been $100,000 since then, every time he works. You know, it's over $100,000, $140,000, $135,000, $125,000.
Yeah, but he's going to say that because of the economy and COVID, I can't do that anymore, which I would say actually probably in his field, if he's working, there's probably even more demand for his services if that's what he does. That's what everybody's doing virtual. They probably need whatever he does.
There is, and that's the thing. Like, it's like everybody's working from home, and like, he works from home. Why can't he work from home? He has a $3,000 computer sitting on the table. Like, he should be able to work from home. Like, there's no excuse for him not working. You know? Whereas, like, me, like, I haven't, except for, like, the 3 months I worked, well, 2 last year and 1 I worked December 2018, or 2019, and January and February of 2020, and then got laid off because of COVID. But even then, I was working 4 hours a week from home. You know, it wasn't anything, like, extravagant, but, you know, it was something.
Right.
You know, something to get my foot back in the door, back in the, you know, working world, because I had, you know, before that I hadn't worked in over 10 years.
Weren't you working at Giant for a little bit?
I'm sorry?
Weren't you working at Giant for a little bit?
No.
Okay, I thought my dad said you had worked at Giant.
No, I never worked at George worked at Giant when he was like 19.
All right. Because I worked at Giant, and I just cannot imagine you being on your feet doing Giant, because it's a grueling job. So it's really hard.
And that's the thing with my plantar fasciitis. You know, it's hard for me. Like, I can't really be on my feet, you know, for long periods of time. I mean, sometimes I get out of bed and it hurts instantly as soon as my feet hit the floor.
Have you looked to try to get on Social Security disability?
I have actually looked into it.
And
it's a very long process.
Well, there's lawyers that specialize in that and do it all the time. Having seen how difficult it is for you to move with moving, I wonder whether you could do that. Have you tried it?
I've thought about it, and I actually have spoken with a lawyer, a disability lawyer, and you know, he explained the whole process to me. And because I'm married to George, I actually wouldn't qualify for Social Security because he makes too much.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if you're married to George, who occasionally makes you money, that disqualifies you from SSDI?
Yep.
Well, it sounds like now that you're divorced, you might get it.
Yeah. I don't know. The only thing is, I don't know if I have to be like fully divorced or being separated, because Pennsylvania doesn't have like an official like separation thing, where like you can file for separation. Apparently, they don't do that in Pennsylvania. And then I have to wait. Apparently, I have to wait a whole year before I can actually get divorced. Is that true?
I think that is true. It used to be 3 years, and I think that the law changed it to 1 year. And that's the other thing, is I don't know why. I mean, do you anticipate ever getting back with George?
Oh no, never.
Never, ever.
No.
Okay, I just can't imagine going back to this horrible situation. But I've seen crazier things happen, and maybe 10 years from now.
I already went back to him once.
Right.
And come the 1 year anniversary of when I had left him the previous year, and realizing that I was still in the same situation, and the same things were still happening, and that I basically wasted a year and could have been already a year ahead. Like, I could already be in an apartment by now. I could already be divorced by now.
Right.
You know, like,
right.
That's what kind of made me come to, like, realization that, like, this is it. Like, I wasted enough time. And then I spoke to one of my old therapists, and she's like, you're not just a year behind, you're 4 years behind.
Yeah.
You're still where you were 4 years ago. Like, right. You're not making any progress. You're still in the same position. You're still dealing with the same stuff.
Right.
She's like, you're not going anywhere. She's
right.
like, you're going to be in the same position forever if you don't, wake up and leave him, basically.
Unfortunately, it seems like, sadly, I think George has to truly hit true rock bottom, however that is, for him to wake up to reality, because right now he's in this George fake reality crazy world. And I just kept waiting for him to hit rock bottom. And I mean, like I said, I've hit rock bottom like 10 times already since I've been with him. I don't know when he's ever going to hit rock bottom, if he's ever going to hit rock bottom. Like, I don't know what his rock bottom is, Was there any way to 302 him or commit him or to try to get him into rehab?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I don't know. Because, I mean, he's not technically harm to himself. Like, I don't think, because he's not, suicidal or anything like that.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know, because, because he's just so all over the place. Like, I just don't know, yeah. I mean, the drugs are just, messing with him. And then the problem is, every time he does it, it's like, even when he gets off it, a lot of the side effects and things like that remain. Another therapist that I had, he said that when you're under 25, if you start doing drugs under 25, your brain basically stops developing, because your brain develops, I guess, up until the age of 25 for men. He said that when you start doing drugs before 25, your brain basically stops growing when you start doing drugs.
Right.
So I know that he started doing it around 18, 19. So I'm basically dealing with an 18, 19-year-old for a lot of things.
Who basically just happens to have a skill set in computers, so he can do that thing.
Exactly.
Right.
So, because, I mean, the temper tantrum he throws, I've never even seen a 2-year-old have such a bad temper tantrum. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, my kids never behaved that badly. And I worked in daycare for 5 years. None of the kids in the daycare for 5 years ever acted that badly. No matter how much of a temper tantrum they threw. It's just like, but of course everything is everybody else's fault. His temper tantrums are because I said something that pissed him off. Well, I'm sure I piss off a lot of people and they don't act like that.
Right.
Most people don't act like that even when they get pissed off.
Right.
You still learn to control yourself, and you still learn, I mean, he's thrown laundry detergent down the stairs and left it for days. And eventually, I had to clean it up. He's slammed, like, every time, like, he would get mad. Like, I would have, like, all my arts and crafts stuff on the coffee table. And, like, pens all organized, everything like that. And he would just flip the table. And all my pens and arts and crafts would go flying everywhere.
Right.
And he would just not clean it up. And when we lived in one of the houses we lived in Pottstown, he would bring dishes down to the basement because it was a split level. And we basically had like a living room upstairs and a living room downstairs. So he would use the living room downstairs to play like video games, and then he had like an office area. And he would bring dishes down. And I would like beg him, like, can you please just bring them upstairs? Like, you don't even have to rinse them. You don't have to wash them. You just have to carry them upstairs. And I would go down, and one time I even like put them all in a box. I was like, all you have to do is carry the box upstairs. One time. One box upstairs. Well, do you know where that box ended up?
Where?
It eventually made its way into the garage. And then a year and a half later, when we moved, I had to wash the dishes.
Renee, if my dad actually gets an eviction hearing on George, would you be willing to testify to any of all this stuff that you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind, testifying to whatever. I mean, I'm glad to help your dad in any way.
But would you go to court with him and basically say that George has a problem and I can't, that's why I'm out and I feel bad, and because it seems like he's got some real mental health issues.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have, I kind of feel bad because your dad, it's kind of putting it on me also, because I guess the eviction is in both of our names.
Well, it is, but I mean, you basically honored the eviction, so I'm not sure what more you personally can do.
That's the thing, like, that's what my mom was saying, because she spoke with my uncle, and my uncle was like, well, I don't see why Renee's involved, because Renee has vacated the property. Technically, I vacated the property before your dad even set the eviction. Right.
No. Technically, you're personally liable for all the money too, because you're both on the lease. But I don't think my dad's gonna go after you. But who knows what my dad will do? But the reality is, George doesn't seem like he's just gonna leave. And my dad, I don't know how he could make it any easier and nicer for him. And we might be able to find a place to live. He should just go find a room and live for $800 a month. And get his life together. I mean, the stuff that you guys are going to have to deal with child support and custody and divorce, I mean, that's what he should be focusing on and moving on with his life, not trying to squat in a house that is a disaster. I mean, it's a health hazard living there.
I know.
It's horrible.
It is. I mean, and the thing too is that he blames. Apparently, when your dad showed up after I had already moved out and hadn't been there for over a month, George blamed the whole mess on me.
Sure.
To your dad.
And to me too. And to me too. But I don't know. And there's no way I can prove who did what.
And I'm like trying to explain to him, like, I haven't been there in over a month. I don't know what the house looks like. It's not my mess. Like, I don't want you to live there. And because even when my mom and I were going over there and trying to pack everything in the few hours a day he would allow us to be there, on the days he would allow us to be there, I was like, my mom and I were cleaning up as we went. Like, we pretty much had to clean up the house before we could even move anything out because you couldn't even get through. There was just so much stuff on the floor that you just couldn't even walk through the house. And so, like, we would go and have to pick all the trash up. I mean, we felt like, I don't even know how many trash bags each time we went. It was ridiculous. I mean, all you have to do to see his desk is look around his desk area. I mean, he puts everything on the floor. Like, how hard is it to put stuff in a trash can? Like, I don't understand that.
I don't know. Either.
And every time, like, I would clean the house, it was like I spent half my time picking up stuff on the floor and putting stuff in the trash can.
Right.
And then the other half actually trying to clean it all up.
Well, so what was the impetus to have Mike stay on the third floor? Who made that happen?
Well, it was presented to me that he was going to stay for about a week while he moved from Harrisburg to this area, and he was going to pay us rent for the week that he was going to be there. And then once all his stuff was moved in, it turned into 3 months. What is Mike's name?
What's Mike's name?
Michael Crust. C-R-U-S-T.
C-R-U-S-T.
Just like pizza crust.
Pizza crust.
Yeah, like pizza.
And has George been a friend of his for a long time?
Yeah, I think they've known each other for years and years.
So he knew that he was getting out of jail and wanted to be a friend and didn't mind him getting a little money. Not that he does Michael have any money coming out of jail?
Well, I don't know. That's the thing. I never saw any of it. I don't know that George has. Every time I asked him about it, he hadn't gotten anything from him.
And Michael moved in on November?
Yeah, he moved in November.
And then you guys all went to the Thanksgiving meal together with Michael there too?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep, at my mom's house.
What was Michael like during that meal?
I mean, it's kind of hard, to picture him as this like badass drug dealer.
Right.
He is one. He's very nice. Like, he's very nice.
He seems that way. That's why I'm like, he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a very nice guy, and like, I almost feel bad for him because he got himself in a situation that I didn't think he even realized what he was getting himself into with George. George probably spun it to him one way, and then poor Mike moves in and it's completely differently than what George first told him, and then within a few weeks of him being there, we're getting divorced and I'm moving out. So it's like, poor guy, like, probably bit off way more than he could chew, but, I'm pretty sure that George is still getting high. A good giveaway is when he's never, ever, 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 okay, at his computer unless he's high or has his Adderall medicine.
Why is that?
Because he can't function without one or the other. Like, wow. He just can't. Like, his laziness is, like, exponentially, like, multiplied by, like, a billion. Like, he just can't even, like, I can't tell you how many times, like, he hasn't been high or on Adderall, and I begged him to look for a job. I'm like, just look for one job today. Can you just look for one job today? Just apply for one job today. That's all I'm asking. Like, one job. And it's like, he couldn't even do that.
No, but if he did, he would have to get high and get Adderall to actually apply for a job?
Yep. And then he would have to be either high or on Adderall to go to the job and work the job. Because
the Adderall basically helps him focus.
Exactly. And so does the crystal meth.
Wow.
So, and it's like, I was in, a vicious circle for Missouri marriage because it's like, well, he either got high and went to work, or he didn't get high and didn't work. So I was like, what am I supposed to do? Except say, okay, go get high. Like, it's kind of, like, he just couldn't work without one or the other. And it's just like, I don't know. I mean, one of the jobs he had, he literally got hired for a job that paid $90 an hour. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And within, like, the first week of him working there, the person, like, in charge of his department quit. And so they basically didn't have any work for him to do. So all he had to do, Chris, was go to this job. He had to go, like, show up in person, be there for 8 hours a day, and do nothing. Not a single thing. He didn't have to lift a finger, didn't have to hit a key on the keyboard. He just had to sit there and make $90 an hour.
Amazing.
He couldn't even do that.
Because he couldn't do that because he couldn't get out of bed to get there, or what?
No, he, like, couldn't sit there without doing it. Like, he was just like, I'm too bored, I can't sit there. I'm like, oh my gosh, play solitaire. Bring a book with you. Bring some, like, do something. Like, look for another job if it's that bad. Like, I was raised that you don't quit a job until you have another one lined up and ready to go. So there's no lapse in paychecks or money or anything. You find a job, and then if you're miserable at the job you're at, you look for another one while you're still working. You don't just quit the job and then hope you're going to get something. So, and it's not like he doesn't get job offers either. It's just he's too good for them. They don't pay enough. It's below him. So, whereas like me, I'm like, I'll go work wherever. I don't care if I have to scrub somebody's toilets to make money. If it's going to put food on, if it's going to provide for my family. Like, I will do whatever I need to do to make it happen. So, but, I mean, even right now, like, for God's sake, I'm in a freaking shelter. You think I like being here?
Right.
Like, this is not my cup of tea.
Did he listen to your brothers at all?
No.
Does he listen to anybody?
No, not really. I mean, he would have listened to his mom if she was still around, but she's not around. So.
How about his dad, who's got the PFA against him now?
I know his dad. They never really had a relationship growing up. The way it was, George has told me, is kind of one way. Now I see it a bit from a different aspect, of course. I see all the things his dad has had to deal with over the years, and I'm not surprised that, the relationship is where it is. But even when he came to my friend's house on New Year's Eve, and they called the police and everything, I told the officer, like, he's high on crystal meth, he is not thinking clearly, and, the officer agreed with me and told George that he couldn't leave, like, he couldn't drive away, and that he would have to get picked up, and that he would either have to leave the car there, at my friend's house, until he could come back, sober, or have a friend come pick him up and drive the car home. So George told the officer that his dad was going to come pick him up. Well, as soon as the officer told me that, I was like, I find that extremely hard to believe, because this is the same dad that called the police on his own son when his own son was, had drugs in the house.
Right.
He had his own son arrested. So I find it very hard to believe that he would come pick him up because he's too high to drive. So I actually called his dad myself, and I was like, hey, it's Renee. I was like, I know this is kind of a weird question and situation, because I haven't spoken to him in a while.
Yeah.
It's kind of awkward for me to call him, but I was like, George is here, and he said you were coming to pick him up. I was just wondering if you were doing that. And his dad's like, no, the plan was for him to come here, I guess, to the brother's house. And I was like, so you have no intention of coming to get him? And he's like, no, none at all. I was like, okay. And then he asked me why. I said, well, he's under the influence of, drugs and, can't drive. And he's like, oh, well, he can just leave it open in the parking lot. Like, he had no intention of coming to get him whatsoever. And then about an hour after George sat in front of my friend's house, in the car, an Uber showed up with Mike. So I guess George Ubered Mike to my friend's house to come get the car, and then Mike drove the car home.
Wow. All right, Renee, I'm gonna have to go, but thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, and I'll keep you posted as to what happens next. But I keep telling my dad he's got to follow up on George every single day. How many trash bags did he get? What did he do? What did he do? Otherwise, it's just everything that you're sharing with me doesn't sound like he's just gonna milk this as long as he can get. He even told me when I was over there that he needs to have high-speed access to the internet that's hardwired. Like the only place he could get it is if he had his own connection versus just a regular Wi-Fi. Do you think that's true, or do you think he's just making that up?
He's partially making that up.
Okay.
He does need fast internet to, do what he does do when he does work.
Right.
But even when we were there, he wasn't working. He was playing computer games with other people online. So, it's not like he's even really trying to find. He would have been hired on it if he was trying to find a job, because I've seen a ton of jobs that are what he does, and a ton of people hiring. And he's just not trying.
Right.
He's just, as long as, like I said, as long as the unemployment money is rolling in, he's just kind of going with that. He's also stuck. He's got $400 of food stamps coming each month to him. He's got unemployment coming to him. He's got,
how much is he getting in unemployment?
I think he's getting whatever the maximum is.
Which is like $2,400?
Yeah, but then I think they tacked on, with the COVID and everything, they tacked on extra money for people on unemployment. So for a while, I think he was getting $5,000 a month on unemployment.
And he's and not paying the rent.
And not paying the rent. When I left him last year, over a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, he hadn't paid the rent in 3 months. He hadn't paid the car payment in 3 months. He hadn't paid any bills in 3 months. And that was when he had locked me out of the bank account. So to this day, I still wonder where all that money went, because that's when he was working. Or he was also working at the time. He was working at the time making, his paychecks are $4,000 or $5,000 a month. Or $4,000 or $5,000 a paycheck every 2 weeks. So he's making in between $6,000 to $10,000 a month. So there's no excuse not to pay the rent. There's no excuse to not pay the car payment. There's no excuse to not pay the electric. There's no excuse not to pay anything. But for those 3 months, I have no idea where any of the money went. We're talking thousands and thousands of dollars that I just don't know what happened to. So, but, yeah, so. But yeah, I know we've been playing catch up, on most of our bills from the beginning of our marriage, but, we were caught up when I got my car accident money. We got caught up on everything, and I paid the car payments, I paid the rent, I paid for all the furniture, and, I paid for the 2 couches in the house, I paid for the TV, the big TV from the living room, I paid for the bed upstairs. I paid for, all this stuff with my money, with my car accident money, paid my mom back the $6,000 we owed her at the time, I pay my debts, I don't like owing anybody money. I don't like owing somebody $5 or $10. It weighs on me until that's paid back, because I don't like to owe people anything. But, I just found out when I talked to your dad at one point that we owe over $10,000 in rent right now.
Right.
I had no idea. I did not know that.
You had no idea? What did you think was paying the rent if you weren't paying it?
Well, because he had kind of taken over, paying all the bills. I figured he was doing it. And it's every time I ask him, it's oh, I'm taking care of it. I'm taking care of it.
Well, did my dad ever call you? Did my dad ever email you? And did you have no idea what was going on, that the rent wasn't getting paid?
Well, every time I talked to your dad, one of the last times I talked to him was when I had just mailed over the $10,000.
Yeah.
When George had taken, my money from my unemployment and paid the rent with my money, not his, but mine. And it's I didn't even know he did that. I didn't even know he took all the money out from my unemployment.
So you didn't know? You didn't know that? You didn't know
the check and everything. I figured it was coming, from his unemployment. Never dreamed, or half of both, or whatever. I never dreamed that it was all mine. And none of his.
Well, the reality is you're married, so you talk it like it's his money and your money. It's all of your money in one big pot until you file for a divorce. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
he's in control of everything. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and it was always his money because he's the one working and he's the one bringing home the paycheck.
That's just not how it works when you're married. People don't like to hear that, but that's just how the real world works. You don't have his money and your money. You have our money.
Exactly, and that's what I would say. But of course, he would throw it in my face every time he got a chance to.
Right.
Saying, "Well, it's my money, and it's my this, it's my that, it's my car, it's my."
I know.
And it's when time comes for the divorce, guess who's going to get screwed? It's not going to be him. It's going to be me. Because I'm going to get stuck paying a part of all the debt he owes that he racked up himself, not even me, but that he's racked up, over the years, and. It's going to suck. I don't even know how I'm going to pay it off or what I'm going to do because, even when I am working, I think I counted last time I worked, an actual job, I'm going back 10 years. And I was making a decent salary. I was making $18 an hour. And it would take me 6 weeks to make what he made in one.
Right.
Or in one paycheck in 2 weeks. It would take me 6 weeks to make that.
Where were you guys living before you came to Mill Street with me?
We were living in Pottstown.
And why did you leave Pottstown?
The owner was selling the property. He was selling the house. So, we had to move, and prior to that, we lived at Eland Down for 2 years. But it's everywhere we lived, always ends up rubbing everybody the wrong way.
Did you guys end up stiffing Eland Down, or the people in Pottstown?
Did we what?
Did you end up stiffing Eland Down or the people in Pottstown?
No.
Just me and my dad.
Yeah. Well, Chris, if it was up to me, it would not have happened ever. It would not even be happening now. And I would, like I said, I would never stiff anybody or not pay anybody money that I owe.
Right.
And I feel stupid because I put so much trust into him, and as my husband, he would think that a wife would trust her husband,
Well, as I told both of you, you need to document and timestamp everything now and pretend like you're going to court. And all this stuff. There's nothing. You don't have any money to fight over, other than maybe whatever George has. But it sounds like whatever's there is going to be gone by the time you get to court. It's just going to disappear.
Oh yeah,
it's going to go poof.
Your dad just told me yesterday that I guess he made an exit offer.
Yeah, and you weren't aware of that, or were you?
No, I wasn't. No, I had no idea. I just found out yesterday when I spoke to your dad. And saying that he would forgive the debt for whatever we owed, plus give us $5,000.
Yeah.
And apparently George was surprised, or George just realized, I guess, after talking to your dad, that I was included in that $5,000, which he thought he was going to get all the money himself. Which, I mean, depending on how your dad does it, or if George is out in time, I don't know how he's going to handle it, but, it's like, I mean, he just got 5 weeks of unemployment just the other day. Plus if your dad gives him the other $5,000, then he's going to have like almost $10,000. So what's he going to do? Use it against me?
Have you had this conversation with my dad?
Well, I've tried talking to your dad, but it's kind of hard.
Why?
I don't know if he fully understands like everything that I'm saying. Or
no, I don't think he does. I mean, he's in his own world, and he doesn't get it. Although he should, because his own son, me, have gone through a lot of all the stuff you're talking about, and it just drives me crazy. But it is what it is. But it's just a big mess.
Yeah, and I mean, the only thing we're going to pretty much argue about money-wise is going to be debt. How much debt each of us has to pay in the end. I mean, that's all there is to argue about.
I don't see you guys paying any of your debt. Are you going to pay for his parking tickets? Are you going to pay for everything else? I mean, how far are you going to take all that? My wife stuck me with $600,000 of debt. My ex stuck me with $600,000 of debt.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't think I should be responsible for any of, the debt, like things like parking tickets and things like that, because they're not in my name.
Well, I think the court's going to call it a wash on everything, and you're going to hopefully get some child support and spousal support based upon whatever income the court feels that he's worth, and he's going to claim he can't do anything, and you're going to say, well, let's see the tax returns for the last 3 years or 5 years, and they're going to show something higher, and they're going to pick a number, and then they're going to put it into a formula, and they're going to spit it out.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, even the tax returns, like, most of them aren't even for him working a full year, and I mean, it's hard, because, like, I can't, when I go to court, even when I go to the hearing for child support, I mean, I don't really have any documentation of anything because he has it all.
Well, you
need like an idiot.
Well, yeah, you're right, and unfortunately, when you have your lawyer do all this, they'll do it, but they're going to charge you $200 an hour on the cheap side. It's a very expensive game you're playing.
Oh, I know. I'm well aware, and it's more expensive to get divorced than it is to get married.
Absolutely.
And that's why, like, I never wanted to get divorced. Like, I never wanted to have to split my time with our daughter between the two of us.
Right.
Like, I want to be there for everything. I don't want to miss anything. I want to be there, for everything that she goes through in life. I don't want to, like, I just never wanted to get to that point where, like, I wouldn't be with her and she wouldn't be with me.
Right.
So.
All right, well, you got to go. I got to go. It's been almost 2 hours. But time flies when you're having fun.
Talking with you, Chris.
You too. Take care, and hang in there. Sunrise coming tomorrow. All right.
I'm trying.
All right, take care. Bye.
All right, thanks. Bye.